And once again, hello, good evening. It is a fine Thursday evening and time for a knowledge share session, a very special session of technology hiring opportunities and obstacles. We have a lovely panel lined up for you here. Before that, let's pull in the stream my partners in crime, my dear friends, Vivek and Amit. And then let's pull in our guests, Aditya, Vishwanadh, and Akshat. Hello, good evening, gentlemen. It is a nice Thursday evening full of hopes, aspirations, and surprises. Let's get the evening rolling. My dear Vivek, it's over to you to get the proceedings started so we can learn, imbibe, and leverage together. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you today. It gives me immense pleasure to announce the next LinkedIn Local India Online. The theme for today is Technology Hiring, Opportunities and Obstacles. My name is Vivek Chadha, and I, along with Preeti Chaudhary and Colonel Amit Verma, will be your host for today. We have a stellar panel lineup today, and I'm very happy to introduce them. We have with us Aditya Singh, Director and Head Talent Acquisition India, Informatica. We have with us Vishwanadh Raju, Global Head of Talent Acquisition at AXISCADES. And we have with us Akshat Gupta, Global Head of Talent Acquisition at Microland Limited. I heartily welcome all our panelists and thank you for investing your time to join us today. I also thank all our audience for coming and participating in today's LinkedIn Local India Online and hope that you derive immense value from the same. Tony Robbins said, the quality of questions determine the quality of our lives. So ladies and gentlemen, ask away your questions. Please keep them ready. Put them in the Q&A box that you see at the bottom of your screens in the chat window. So without much further ado, I request Preeti to introduce LinkedIn Local to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Vivek. A couple of quick reminders to the audience once again. The purpose of evenings like this is a dialogue and a conversation, and that cannot be one way. So please, like Vivek says, let those questions and comments keep coming in because it's extremely important that you ask and we talk. The whole purpose of having this telepanel here today is to understand the nuances of technology and its hiring in the day in and day out life for people who are from the fraternity of HR and TA, for the young students, freshers, people who are into transition, any veterans that are joining in, all the women technologists out there, all the LGBTQ plus techies that have joined us today. So please make use of this evening and let those questions and comments keep coming into the chat of this LinkedIn and YouTube live. So with that, quickly to put things into perspective, what is LinkedIn Local India? It is a LinkedIn property, an online to offline meetup concept, wherein people who are connected to each other on LinkedIn or not yet connected to each other on LinkedIn, meet up, connect, communicate, collaborate, and therein the life goes on by relationship building, networking, and so on and so forth. In the unprecedented times that we have been living in the past 6 months, all that has happened is this activity has moved online. And that is precisely the reason why we are here in this format as a part of LinkedIn Local India Online, LinkedIn Local India Live. It is all about conversations. It is all about communication. And that's what we are here for. So that is LinkedIn Local India for you. Before we move on to the next part of the evening, I would like to invite my dear friend Amit to come and introduce himself. He is our dear friend and co-host for this evening and for many in the past and many more in the future. Over to you, Amit. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek and Preeti. We are living through a challenging time. It's a time of crisis, and every challenge, every pain that you feel is real. But with collaboration, by talking to the right people, you can find ways to come through it. I found support in Vivek and Preeti at a time when I was transitioning from army to the corporate world, and it has stood me in good. It's a good standing because you feel stronger when there are people around you. Even Steve Jobs said that hiring is a collaborative process. When every other sector is down, there is only one beacon which can be seen, a light which is visible far and wide, the tech sector. And that's where we have these industry leaders sitting with us, telling that not only is hiring going on at full pace, it's going on for the right talent. So if you are listening in, join in and get benefit from this interaction. Looking forward to some good questions here.
Thank you, Amit, for that, and a very warm welcome once again. Let me quickly introduce the topic. The topic for today is technology hiring, opportunities, and obstacles. Very simple, very clear, very concise, in the form of whatever the audience wants to make of this statement today. With that, let me invite the first speaker of today, my dear friend, Aditya Singh, aka Adi. It's over to you.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
thanks, Preeti. Thank you very much for having me. And I think so. I'm very happy to be part of this panel. First, let me introduce what does Informatica do, right? Informatica empowers progressive, digital transformations for larger companies, right? We've been around for last 25 years and about 17 years in India. We are leaders in enterprise cloud data management. Our core values are on B data, which is basically commitment to cultivate value, which is value-driven culture. We integrate, focus on our customers. We do good. We act as a team. Integrity and teamwork is very, very important, and obviously we aspire for the future. Talking about the topic today, and it's been on the positive side. Let's look at the positive side. We've been hiring, and most of our job postings are present in our career portal, which you can look up. What is happening is we need to realize is there is a faster adoption of technology. The best example is today, right? Otherwise, we would have done this physically in one of the forums there, right? So the good part is the adoption of technology is very high, and I keep referring to Martek's law, which talks about adoption from technology to organization adoption. There's always a gap. The delta has moved up by virtue of COVID. At least that's one positive side of COVID. What is also happening is it's still a candidate-driven market. There are, for a good candidate, there are still a lot of technology jobs. Let's talk technology, right? There are a lot of technology jobs which are available for all the candidates around there, right? There is still issues of, I still feel issues of multiple offers. People do have multiple offers when they walk into offers with us. There is huge amount of competition because remember a lot of technology. Let's talk about technology. Predominantly, if you look at scripting, a lot of companies are hiring on the scripting side, people on React and user interface predominantly, also on the backend side. So a lot of players, limited pool companies are hiring in one area extensively, right? So everybody is doing similar work. India is still extensively known as an R&D tech setup. So I think that's on the positive side. What organizations still are struggling is the shelf life of technologists. I was reading one of the reports about 2 years. I think that's also a challenge from a retention standpoint, from an organization standpoint. We still organizations look for the passive candidates. I think so. They are in the current situations looking at opportunities, but then they're waiting for the right opportunity. The opportunity is not only the kind of work, but also the organization ethos and the culture which matter to people now. So people are moving in that direction. I see that extensively. So what happens to employers? Employers need to be present in the market, like what we all three of us are there in this call, to present and showcase the kind of work which we do and showcase the kind of technology which we do. I still feel there is a plethora of opportunities for the right candidate. I think so. That's what Amit and Preeti also spoke about. The fence sitters is something which people need to convert into looking at their own organizations. the skills which I still feel are trainable, and I speak in a lot of forums, is some of the skills are predominantly trainable skills, right? Your ability to solve complex problems, critical thinking, creativity, people management, your ability to understand the customer pretty well, proactiveness to solution the issue far more earlier, your ability to negotiate, cognitive flexibility. Some of these things are very, very important when people get assessed, and these are skills which you can develop as an individual, right? Even if you look at junior level, on the technology side, the focus is predominantly on the data structure and algorithms, right? Data structure is predominantly on arrays, stacks, linked list, trees, and few other areas. And algorithms is basically looking at analyzing and improving time and space, right? To understand the basis. So my input back to everybody else, and obviously I'll let the other panelists also speak, is there are opportunities. There are opportunities in the market. I think it's a matter of making sure you present what you are as an individual, what is so different about you as compared to somebody else. That's what the organizations today are looking at, and some of the skills which are trainable skills, which are the softer skills which I spoke about, are now what organizations are looking at. In fact, you see a lot of organizations pivoting towards the future, and these are the skills normally they're looking at because they feel these are some of the skills which is very important. And obviously, looking at the person from a cultural fit plays a very important part. Preeti, back to you.
Thank you, Aditya, for that and those clear and concise insights. For me, it is obvious that it is all about the right kind of alignment and constant reskilling and upskilling as well. That sort of jumped out from what you had to say. Not only the hard skills, but I think what you're saying is also the soft skills will play a major role. So it is a combination of these two factors that one needs to imbibe to be able to stay relevant and make sure that the opportunities are there for themselves. So thank you very much for those insights. My next panelist is Vishwanadh Raju. Vishwa, it is over to you. I know you've been doing a lot of hiring and your university relations. You've seen it from all kinds of perspectives, So you've seen the ups and you've seen the down, and especially in the last 6 months. I would not even say the last 6 months. I would request you to talk about in your whole sort of perspective, professional, personal, what are the opportunities and what are the obstacles that you have seen in technology and hiring space. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So first, let me thank you and the platform, Amit, Vivek. I think this is the first time that I'm doing with you guys, and I love the format that you're looking at. Coming to me, my experience predominantly was into talent acquisition, and I always say that one of the favorite questions people ask, what is total experience and what is your relevant experience? My answer is total and relevant experience is same, right? So been working in product engineering companies, investment banking capitals, and more of the times I've seen only ups, Preeti. I think that's what I've always seen, no downs at all, even though in 2 recessions that I've seen, I have always been hiring, right? Coming to the company that we represent, I represent a company called AXISCADES. We have been there in the industry for the last 2 decades. We are an Indian listed company. We are a digital organization when it comes to technology. We work in aerospace, automotive, heavy engineering, and recently we picked up 2 more portfolios, which is medical and something to do with energy domain, right? So off late, it's been a little bit of challenge in terms of the hiring, obviously, but on-time hiring is a great challenge for all of our recruiting team leaders, and there is a good guys are always available. I think I always feel that good guys are available, but how do we fetch them? How do we get them? That's a question that we need to ask. I think Aditya touched this point, right? Skill gap is a little bit there. Sometimes your business need almost like 100% fit. Can you convince your business that okay, you might be okay with this because the kind of skill that he's coming at from types of technologies and then there is a kind of learning that you can pick it up. Sometimes price point actually makes a lot of difference. Sometimes the price point that you have versus the price point that is available on the market in terms of the skill is a challenge. Off late, we've been hiring multidisciplinary kind of people. I think Aditya touched this point. So sometimes it so happens that you're looking for a machine learning engineer, but you also want that person to understand the IoT bit, some bit of cloud computing and all that. So these skills are not available, right? So and sometimes it so happens that the JDs are made by the human beings, and then they just write whatever they want to write. So that is sometimes a challenge, but yeah, I think with market reality that we cannot go back to them, I think they understand. And some of the JDs have become a little more future focused. For example, I'll give you an example where we wanted to look at hiring for the future, not for us. So which means that we are also giving a ray of hope that what could be the potential skills that they will be working on. And sometimes it will become little ambiguous to the person that they don't really know what they are hiring for. But I think we are very clear that what we are hiring. Coming to the hindsight of it, opportunities, right? So we do a lot of pre-sourcing. I think it helps us to kind of evolve over a period of time, and then to some extent, I think we were a little predictable in terms of what kind of hiring will come up, and then we are always ready, kind of thing, right? Recently, AI-based sourcing has really helped us kind of get some sourcing done quickly. And obviously these chatbots and then your robotics kind of process are helping us to kind of do some analysis. And we work with a lot of these finishing schools for the touch of the small skills that has to be imparted to the students. Aditya touched about this point about passive candidate management. I think this is very, very important for any organizations to kind of really grow, because these are the people who are actually the right kind of people that you should be going after. We invest a lot of an effort in terms of our early talent program. We enable some of the researchers in the universities, and through which we hire some people. Of late, we've been doing a lot of meetups and hackathons and all that. That is kind of giving us some kind of churn in terms of the people. Lastly, we've invested a little bit on GitHub, Stack Overflow, and LinkedIn kind of thing in terms of getting new way of looking at it. Our competitor analysis and then benchmarking is also helping us to be in the right forum and the right place at the right time. And at the end of the day, we feel that we are more a business partner than a service provider kind of a thing for the business. So that's my view, Preeti.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I think Preeti will be back online soon. Wonderful, points from you there. And I'll invite Akshat to bring his views to the table.
Thank you so much. Hi, this is Akshat here. I work for a company called Microland. Microland is an IT infrastructure services provider company. It's a 30-year-old company which works into IT infrastructure space. So anything and everything that we talk about from the infrastructure side, whether you talk about the network, the cables, the security, the cyber, everything will come out here. If you look at the current time period, it is going around here, right? I mean, this is a time period, especially when I have to look from a Microland perspective, is a positive time period, because you're talking about everybody working remotely. You're talking about doing a lot more cybersecurity. You're talking about a lot more network, which has to be provided out to the people out there. How do you manage things? So what we do is we're still looking out, we're still hiring throughout the year. We're looking out to what is needed. The persona or the profile of the candidate has undergone a change. If you have to look at, if you're a fresher or if you have experience, let's say less than 1 year time period or anything coming around, right? More than the technology, like Adi said or Vishwa said out there earlier, what will matter the most is the cognitive. Communication becomes the most important part out here, because if you are not able to communicate very well, the challenge for you to find a good job will always be there, right? So communication becomes very, very important. Able to learn new things out there. So you can go on multiple forums out there, able to read different articles, what is happening in your area of interest that you have around. That becomes a very important part from an opportunity perspective. And the other important perspective that comes around is, what are your interests and hobbies? How do you pursue them along with whatever you like to do around? Okay? Technology-wise, of course, there is a flexibility that we talk around. Technology-wise, there is a flavor that you need to have around. And so how do you keep pace with the change and the upgrades happening around in the technology is another piece. So it's a time where you need to look at investing a portion of time, since assuming that everyone is not traveling around, there's a time saved on the travel out there. You have to invest on yourself in terms of learning a bit of new, and that opens up a huge amount of opportunities coming around. And that's what we are looking at when we go out and we find out and talk to any candidate out there. Are you open to learn new things? Are you agile? Are you ready to shift jobs, shift roles within the company in a quick span? Are you ready to take on new challenges, and how well can you communicate? I think that's everything can be done around. So that's from me. Over to you, Preeti.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Akshat. And a quick reminder once again to all the audience here today. The questions and the comments need to be coming in. This is a dialogue and a conversation, remember. So these insights are here. You've heard the experts in terms of their opportunities and their challenges and their obstacles. Now is the time for all of us collectively to get those gray cells ticking and ask away, because if you will not ask, the answer will always be no. So let's get this conversation started. And to kickstart that, I'm sure, and I know for a fact, Vivek, Amit, and I, we definitely have our own questions. So we will start. By the time, maybe you will start getting ideas as well. So please keep putting them into the chat section of this LinkedIn Live. You're watching Technology, Hiring, Obstacles, and Opportunities, LinkedIn Local India Live, hosted by Vivek Chadha, Colonel Amit Verma, and me, Preeti Chaudhary here. Our guests today, Aditya Pal Singh, Vishwanadh Raju, and Akshat Gupta. With that, it is over to you, Vivek, to get the ball rolling and get everything started. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. So this is my favorite question, and a lot of people ask this question in a lot of different ways. And so the question is, what is the change in the strategy in talent acquisition that you have seen, and what are the future? What do you see in the near future in terms of further acceleration in terms of strategies? So I'll let Aditya answer this question, and then we can quickly take up Akshat and yeah, please.
Thanks, Vivek, and pretty relevant question, because talent acquisition has also gone through a sea change, right? By virtue of not being the current pandemic, but then adoption of technology was always TA was always very skeptical, right? Because it involved a lot of new technology, and also looking at how do you assess an individual now virtual, right? So the strategy has moved towards being only location agnostic to location specific to becoming more location agnostic. I think so. Organizations are opening up their mind to saying that, hey, I may have this position location agnostic. The thought process at least has enabled in a lot of organizations. Assessment has become a key part from an organization perspective. You have some of the organizations at junior level moving into assessment, more looking at gaming. I think there are some tools which do gaming from an assessment standpoint. So you're looking at attributes of the individual which match the attributes of the people in the organization. So actually, you need to be very in sync with the culture of the organizations to portray those, portray those specific qualities as an individual. So these two. Then also we've seen a coming of more candidate-centric experiences, right? It's not only an employer-led market, it's also candidate-centric. It's the kind of brand which you present to the market before the person even thinks about what the organization, the experience the individual gets during the process, and also you also have the effects post the conversation, right? And I think Glassdoor and few other sites, Google reviews are the best and biggest example, because that's a anonymous way and the right way of presenting the organization back feedback, right? So it has moved in that direction, and I see TA becoming far more agile. While it's already is, you will have more more Scrum meetings, which are basically those of you who understand technology from a hiring perspective, where you have daily updates which happens for critical roles. So the adoption is huge. You will have recruiters who would understand technology far more better. because you also have adoption of NLP and few other tools which will sift through the JD and then map it according to the organization, right? I think so. On AI, maybe I'll let Vishwa speak, because on a lot of the work on technology, I think so he's also fond of that area. I think maybe I'll let him speak about that part. Vivek.
Wonderful inputs there, and I think you've hit the bullseye with that answer. And I'll let Vishwa take the part and continue further, please.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting journey TA is going through, talent acquisition. I can relate it to industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. So we can still think that from a welfare officer, which was the role that we were playing maybe 100 years back, today we are a human resource manager with an AI twist, right? So what is the change, total change, right? And we are in a world where we are in a market where candidates choose us, which means experience becomes a lot more important point. And thanks to AI, which is basically machine learning, computer vision, your NLP, your cognitive computing, all of these are playing different roles, right? From sourcing and screening, could be chatbots and all that, and video assessments and all that stuff, and virtual interview. Actually, you don't even need to meet somebody directly, right? You can actually complete the entire process virtually, right? And then you have access to the tools. And I think Aditya mentioned about an experience, right? So let's talk about it, right? So when you enter into an applicant tracking system of a company, instead of you searching for a job, assume that you've been recommending the applicant tracking system recommending some jobs to you, so you get a great feeling about the company, right? And that's what it is happening. So companies are choosing, looking at different options to kind of see how they can attract these new generation talent. Visibility has become a lot more important, right? For example, there was a recent survey which was done that LinkedIn applications are more considered than any other applications, right? So which means people can actually apply on the fly, right? So there is a lot of change which is happening. Those companies who are understanding these changes, adapting to these changes, are the ones who are actually doing better than those people who are realizing that there is a change which is happening and then they are kind of left back. That's my view.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Akshat, I will let you now take over and conclude that answer.
Sure, thanks a lot. I think apart from the technology, if you have to look at talent acquisition overall is undergoing a massive change, right? There are different features which are coming around. The recruiters are upskilling. We are no longer talking about just purely the candidate experience. You're talking about how do you market. A recruiter has to also become like a salesperson out there. So that is becoming a change out there from a talent acquisition perspective. You have to look around and talk technology to a delivery or a business person out there. You have to talk, how do you market out there? You have to talk about how will you add value to the organization. So when you look at it from an overall angle, so the entire talent acquisition, the recruiter who is working in the team is undergoing a change. And like Vishwa and Adi said, right? I mean, you're talking about Scrum projects, small projects, take a project, run, close, let's move on to a project. So there are different approaches which are coming around. And that's experimentation and things happening around. And that's where the people are using the new technologies and everything. So it's a new talent acquisition world that we're talking here about.
Thank you, Akshat, for that. And I think this really solved, the puzzle in my head as to what the talent acquisition heads are thinking about this particular question. And this has been on my mind for quite a few weeks now. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Now this question is, COVID has brought in a lot of trouble for a lot of people. A lot of layoffs have happened. Industries have sort of come down to zero in terms of business. And there is a plethora of people who are now looking for opportunities, but cannot find opportunities in their industry. And technology is the one of the few industries where still some hiring is happening, relatively. So what is your advice to people who want to move to technology while unlearning and learning and being agile is sounds right, but how do you prepare somebody who has never been into technology and come into a technology? What path should somebody look at? Anybody? Akshat, you may start with that.
Sure. So I think if you are not from a technology background and you want to enter into a technology, the very first thing that I would recommend is, there are many channels on the internet, right? I mean, assuming that the person is having a smartphone or an internet-based device or anything available, go to a YouTube, go and do a Google search out there. You will find a lot of videos, tutorials talking about different technologies and things that are there. There would also be a relationship in terms of you would have heard certain technologies which are closer to the line of business that you have. So that is another piece. Even IT companies look out for functional, right? I mean, if you're coming from a non-technology background, you're talking about people bringing in the experience and the expertise coming in of understanding how the business will flow. How do you connect a dot A to a dot B? And then there is another technology person who's doing it. But you have to develop that flavor of technology, which you can do if you start reading about technology, listening to videos and things like that. So if you're able to do that piece, you'll be able to find what direction we can go, and then you can take the next steps. I think the starting stage would be to just identify that piece.
Great.
Let me just add on.
Please, Aditya.
Yeah, so see, there are two parts to it. One is moving to that industry. So it depends on the role which you do, right? Supposing you're in HR, you're in automotive, and you move HR to a technology company. One is like from a function to function, right? The other one is from being from a non-technology background, moving to a technology company, doing technology work, right? There are two parts. My take on both is function. From a functional standpoint, it's predominantly understanding technology, understanding the pain points, and delivering. Remember, end of the day, I know sales will be very different, but end of the day, you still service the client, right? Irrespective of whatever role you do, he or she does. Yeah, a lot of companies will prefer people from industry because we are so ingrained, right? Of saying that I want to de-risk, I want somebody who's there. So because a lot of organizations are thinking, why should I spend time training when I can get a ready-made resource, right? This is how some of the organizations do think, but a lot of organizations are looking at out-of-the-box thinking. The good part is in both the places is, you have enough learning platforms and you have bit-sized learning where you can learn about technology, learn about the things which you learn, and then showcase it when you get interviewed and get spoken to, right? It's very important that you have a plan when you get interviewed, right? You may not be from the industry, but when the individual sees the intent for you to do that particular work, they'll be very happy to see that. A lot of times you might have just theoretical knowledge. You can also look at pro bono work, right? A lot of sites do pro bono internship. I think so. I read Inside Sherpa, a few other sites, they give you just do from an experience standpoint. So there are ways and means. It's the intent somewhere. And a lot of companies, the one which are the top companies, look at people from a very different approach, right? They do that, right? To learn technology, it's good. It's your ability to take a risk and plunge into it. People are very respectful of that. I think so. If you are able to deliver what you can, I think that they are in the right space. But then there's a lot of work, there's a lot of initial struggle, but then if your intent is right, you will get there, Vivek. I will try and always look from a positive angle because I think that's the direction we should try and look at. There can be a lot of other ways. A lot of places people do get rejected, but it's as long as you're moving the direction which you want to move in, I think you're in the right direction. Sorry, Vish, you were saying something.
I think yes,
So
these are brilliant points. Yeah, please, Vishwa. And sorry, before Vishwa, we come to you. I just wanted to also point out here that we have a very good example sitting among us, Colonel Amit, and Amit transitioned from army. And
I was about to say that.
And I think right now he knows more coding than me, who has been a computer science engineer. So he has learned that, struggled, fought, failed, and succeeded. So yes, Vishwa, please go ahead, and I would after that invite Amit to say a few words on this.
So I was about to say that because agility is what I think is required. So let me give a perspective, right? So for example, if you take two roles, sales and recruiting, they actually have the same kind of, or majority of the skills are similar, right? And if you see finance, in accounts payable, receivable, and all the different roles in finance, right? So somebody can understand that, okay, what is a basic skill I need for any requirement, and then build on that with additional software or any hardware kind of technologies is what I think I would want to suggest someone. There are enough and more platforms which can actually give you a feel of what is a project all about, how this project was done. GitHub is a great example where you can actually get a lot of your coding responses and all that stuff. And within technology, within the organization that I represent, we have done very interesting work actually, and I'm very proud of that. So what we did is we thought that hiring externally is actually not so good than looking at giving opportunities to internal people in the pandemic, because there are times when we have some people who are sitting on the bench for various reasons. So we used our workforce planning tool. We presented that information every week. So this is the futuristic positions that are coming up, and you can assess yourself on what are skills you have, and you have L&D partners sitting next to you who can tell you what it takes to go there. And you will not believe, I think in the last quarter or so, we kind of converted around 40 to 50 people in a span of 100 kind of resources requirement. 50 people got internally moved to the new roles where they had very little bit of an understanding, and they have acquired that period of knowledge through that learning, and they've gone to the next level. So I think it is you to decide what you want to do in life, and then people, systems, processes, technologies, everything will enable you, but you need to be determined about what you want to do.
Absolutely. If you want to do something, nobody can stop you. And if you don't want to do something, nobody can let you. So yes, thank you so much for that. Amit, over to you.
Thank you, Vivek. And continuing from where Aditya had just mentioned about the right attitude, there's a recruitment festival, a RecFest going on online from UK, and the only thing they have been talking about is the tech scene in India. Now that's the amazing part, that from India I could only find one name over there, a familiar name. Aditya was a speaker there yesterday, and today also there have been a lot of buzz around the tech scene. The way they are looking at India is almost as if we are the ones who are going to get them out of trouble. And the reason for that is, more than skill, they value our behavior. This was something which was brought out in a study by AON yesterday, that you can teach skills, you can't inculcate the behavior as fast. And that is where it is not that everybody can learn, but people with the right attitude, with the right behavior, when they have that skill, they become more employable. And this is the thing which was discussed in a study by AON. And the most important thing which came out in that study was that there is a gap. And this is a question which I want to pose to the three panelists here. Even with the right education system, or the way we are educating in India, why do the companies still have a gap, or there is a great mismatch between the number of jobs and number of successful applicants? How do the applicants become better at securing that position in, say, your company? What would your advice be? You could start with Akshat.
Sure, thanks, Amit. So, Amit, let me give an example out there, right? I mean, last year I was in one of the engineering schools doing a campus hiring out there, right? And one of the students, I asked a question. I said, okay, I've been doing, and he was not a computer science graduate, non-computer science person, civil engineer guy. And the question was, okay, how do you think the road building that we're doing around in India is adding value coming around, right? Now, what the answer that came around was very surprising, and I'm not getting into that detail. But the point here is that, are you able to think from a theoretical perspective only, or are you actually trying to think from a practical side? What the education system is teaching you is the basic fundamentals out there. They're teaching you a way to think around. Beyond that, you have to now take over that piece and say, okay, what is the practicality coming up? And that is where I believe the gap is coming, right? I mean, we have a lot of people who are graduating every year, who are doing post graduations and every year coming around. But if you're not able to articulate, if you're not able to think practically, and if you're not able to show that passion and attitude, like you rightly used the word in the previous one, I think there will continue to remain a gap.
I would want to
Going
add
on to
to
Vishwanath
Akshat.
now.
Yeah. So, Amit, let's take an example of three candidates, right? Candidate A, candidate B, and candidate C, right? Candidate A is shortlisted, B is kind of not very sure, candidate C is rejected, and that's the situation of most of the people in the industry or in a campus. Now, what has candidate A has done, right? According to me, he is invested on his profile. First thing, he understands what the corporate needs. He has done good. He or she has done good amount of internships, learning from the industry. He or she has done some bit of networking even before the company showed up. He or she has done some bit of understanding of what the work culture looks like. He or she understands what it takes to crack a puzzle of an IBM, Microland, Informatica, right? Than a B or C, right? Now, education, we can still go back and say, hey, all three have been done education in the same college, right? We cannot, that education is like, that is a different topic altogether. What is that you are doing with that education is more important than the education itself, right? I've always shortlisted people who have done multiple internships, right? And they have gone out of the way. Some of the internships are actually not paid internships. They still picked up that and then they did, because they know that when you are doing your hands dirty, that's when you learn. And the best way to learn is do it yourself. That's my view.
Back to you, Aditya.
Thanks. Yeah, I completely agree with both of them. And you need to understand. Let's look at technology, the curriculum, and I think so. Campus to corporate. We do a lot of sessions with people whom we onboard. The alignment has not changed, right? I somehow still feel there's still gap between what gets taught and what they land up doing in the organization. And obviously, emphasis now has to be more on skill-based education. I think NASCOM also released that 2 out of 3 millennials will have to land up taking managerial jobs in 3 years from now. So the whole landscape is changing, right? From a organization perspective, the good thing is, as what Vishwa and I also believe the fact is. Internship plays a very, very important part. A lot of engineering colleges also give 1 year internship. I know some of the places where it gets crunched, your curriculum gets crunched, but then the curriculum needs to get refreshed, right? You need to understand what is the need of the market, right? It's like KYC, right? Know your customer, right? That's what we do in everywhere else, right? If your intake is very different, let's talk about Java, right? If your intake is going to be very optional at the end, right? But your consumption is very high from an organization perspective outside market, why not do it earlier, right? And teach students. Just an example which I took, but I think we need to be far more nimble-footed, right? More skill-based, rule-based learning. Good part is you have a lot of training institutes. Some of them, they play a very, very important part to brush up. I think that's what the colleges need to do. That's my input.
Thank you for that. And continuing with this discussion, the second question is, the obstacles have been many. We have seen that. The COVID crisis has also given many opportunities. You are now location independent. You can reach out to a much larger talent pool. Does it also give you the options of looking at a larger audience when you take in the international scene in mind? Are we ready to take on more challenges as far as the international scene is concerned? Because Indians are considered very good at a particular set of developers, but in some cases where the creativity comes in, it's not as good. So how would you sort of want to approach this part, that how we can create apps or solutions which are for the world and not just copy.
Yeah. Design thinking.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Design thinking is the way, but yeah, I think just to go a little further, I think most of the times when you study a great research organization, you would have seen that the fabric is crowdsourcing. They actually source ideas from any corner of the world, and then they have an ecosystem to sustain and build on top of it. Do you think India currently, do we have that kind of an ecosystem or the entire outlook? I don't think so. We are ready, right? I see that today. I cannot name the name of the companies, but there are companies who are in the US. They are employing Indians, and Indians are sitting in India and they're still delivering it. Do you think we, as an Indian multinational company, can hire somebody in the US and in all that? That's not something that it's actually sometime it will take some time for us to do that. But I think it's the you have to evolve as a company to understand how I can source ideas across the world, how I can nurture those ideas, how I can still able to kind of help them or make that project or product to the next level kind of thing. So that ecosystem has to be built. I think we have some more time to do that, according to me.
And failure in Indian culture taken very differently. So that's my problem with failure, right? And the way our education system is built, that 10th, 12th, and then you do your graduation, and if you do your masters, I think it's all there, and you can't go anywhere else, right? Somebody who goes somewhere else takes a year off. People look at him, why or her, why did this happen, right? I think so that's the one which is also alluding to is your ability to look at things far more different. We have the talent. It's the way people are now slowly looking at it, right? I think so the way world has become virtual, a lot of your education might just become virtual, right? People may not land up going to some of these colleges, and they might offer some of these courses, right? Uh, Virtual, right? So you will have time to look at and develop, right? I think we are getting into an era where it can become borderless, as you spoke, right? I think larger companies will look at doing that in due course of time, but that's a good possibility, I feel, will come in due course of time.
Back to you, Preeti.
All right, thank you very much for those amazing insights, people. Three or four really good questions, very relevant. And this brings me to an audience question right here. It is more of a statement, but I think there is a question in there. So let me just bring it right up for you. And I will start with Adi for this one. And this is Abhay Gopal Bhavsar. He says, while it's great to upskill yourself into diverse technical fields, company asked for X years experience in that particular field. So how would you tackle that, Adi? As the TA head for Informatica, what would be your response to this particular statement or question? Over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a very apt question, and I think so. I normally get questioned and a lot of forums on that. I think so. As we spoke about, right, a lot of times it's not only the experience. What's the attitude on your ability to think far more better, right? There are a lot of technical architects who have less experience to the people who are sitting on the other side, right? But doing far more impactful work. So end of the day, it's very important. One, obviously, you obviously proceed further to showcase your work. It's very important that you have the conviction to prove that what the JD talks about is what you have as an individual. That's where me and Vishwa, a lot of us talked about having the experience. Now, the gap will always be that you may not get the experience. How do you basically work? Look at your presence on Stack Overflow, GitHub, and few other places to learn this, and also get pro bono projects for you to learn on those technology and move further, right? So the day it's that experience. And now a lot of companies are looking at your ability to showcase your work, right? they might just land up giving you a test where you, and then it's a level playing field, right? Then it's not about experience. Slowly companies are looking at the what the individual brings to the experience. The education part is on a decreasing trend as we speak, Preeti.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Vishwa, it's over to you. What would you do in that kind of a situation? And then I will come over to Akshat after that. Over to you, Vishwa. Thank you.
So I think we are sitting on the edge where the thought process now is moving from years of experience to experience in those years. What you have done in those years is very important than the 10 years of experience that you have created, right? That's point number one. Point number two, what is also happening is, there is this thought process that a lot of recruiters have in their mind, right? So when they see somebody, having done something in their 10 years of experience and wanted to invest their time and effort on something else, they would rather go and pick up a phone and talk to them, right? So that is also happening, right? So, and there will be a time when you will be given a task that has to be completed as part of your assessment, and you can be a 15 years experienced person or you can be 4 years experienced person, right? So I think that is where the industry is moving towards. A lot of IT product companies have already adopted this, and some of the companies are actually following it. I need to gone out those days where we have filtered that, okay, this much of experience people only can do this. People are challenging that, right? For example, somebody who's 3 years experience person can actually code something like 8 years, 10 years kind of person. What is that needs to be solved is what I think will come out of the JD slowly, and slow people will have a level playing field, and that's what I feel. It's just on we are on the edge. I think it's going to happen very soon.
Thank you very much. Akshat, would you like to add something from your perspective from what you do or you are planning to do at Microland, please? Over to you.
So thanks, Preeti. So I think Adi and Vishwa covered most of it, but primarily again same thing coming around, right? It's not the number of years you have spent in a particular technology; it's the capability or the depth that you are bringing on board. So even if you spend 6 months in a technology out there, but you're able to bring in the depth that is required for the job out there, you're good to go for that job. So that's what we are trying to look out for. That's what we are telling people, that you have to go deep into it. It's not the number of years spending on.
Okay, I got that. Thank you very much. And with that, we have another question coming right up here. And this is from my dear friend Gautam Nath. And he says, I have found that in business, we need people usually at the senior role who may not have core technical skills but know how to deploy a technology savvy resource to realize the required business models and garner the required insights. How much would a person with this skill set be in demand in the tech industry as opposed to a core tech person who knows how to execute but does not possess the requisite business logic? I think, Vishwa, I will come to you for this first and then I will move along. Over to you. Thank you.
Very good question, and this is a puzzle that I generally have in my mind. To some extent, I think we've solved this puzzle. See, what is happening is sometimes your experience, your pedigree, and all that will actually flash it out, and then you may tend to feel that the person is good, and when you give them that person the job that is required, he or she may fail. Sometimes it so happens the guy has made a very not an okay kind of a resume, but when you pick up the phone very accidentally, you may find that the person is really doing good. And that's where I think the previous question also, ATSs are been applicant tracking systems rather are actually made the way the JD is looking like. So I think with ATSs on top of it, if machine learning is put on, which is an AI kind of a thing, it will start understanding the pattern of people who are going through the assessments, and it will start analyzing that, and it will start giving you an input that you may not like this guy's CV, but he has high chances that he will actually qualify your interview process. And that is where we are moving towards. I think it's just that we have to see how does it happen, and we are still thinking about the biases which are creeping out because of these applicant tracking system and machine learning algorithms. But I think with deep learning and reinforced learning, I think we have some ray of hope.
Thank you for those insights, rather, Vishwa. Adi, anything to add over here, please?
Yeah, yeah. So a different perspective. So if you look at learning, it's becoming T-shaped learning, right? You need to be an SME in one particular area, but also have a broader view of your peripheral areas which you contribute to, right? Let's take my skill as example. I'm predominantly in talent acquisition, but I understand the periphery of what a compensation person does to what a L&D person does, right? You need to have that view, very, very important, right? For you to be a good individual who will collaborate to the fulfillment of the organization. While you talked about having a journalist who would manage that, he or may not be a developer, but there are enough training, enough learnings which individual needs to do, because you will get into a situation where your team below can pass you through and you will not know what's happened, right? So you need to understand what's happening in your area, right? To understand, say, how it gets delivered. You need not understand how it gets developed, but then you should understand what is required for it to get developed. You can't have a basic project manager view of delivering the results, but you need to at least have an understanding of how it's done, because end of the day you will be responsible for delivering it. So T-shaped learning is the simple answer what I would recommend.
Thank you, Adi. Very practical and very concise and pertinent to the point, So thank you very much for that. Akshay, anything to add over here, please?
Sure. So, both the roles or both the profiles are very relevant, right? I mean, whether you are a business person or you are a technology person. Now, the point that is very, very important that we have to understand is, how does technology add value from a business perspective? And that business guy has to understand what technology will add value here. So it's a type of technology, right? So that you're going to add value there. So both are interchangeable, both are equally important coming around, and that is where you need to partner together. So it's two in a box kind of a scenario where both have to go together to understand and then are able to drive the solutions and drive the projects that have to go around. So I think that would be my feedback.
Thank you very much. And a very quick rapid fire question for you guys, and this is for all the panelists here because this is something which I would like to know. Your major challenge as a TA head. Rapid fire, so it's over to Vishwas, Adi, and then Akshat.
Vishwa, you're speaking on mute.
No, I think I told time to hire is a major challenge. I have a lot to do in the time that I have. That's one of the challenge. Second is quality. I think I'll actually make others, inputs to be done by this Akshat and then, this thing, Aditya.
Passive candidates. I always see that as a challenge because somewhere you need to do a lot to make sure that the passive candidates come and join you.
Okay.
So apart from what they said, I would add communication.
Okay. Yes, that is extremely important, isn't it? I mean, again, a gap between engineers coming out, technologists coming out, but then are they ready? Are they employable? And that is what sort of brings me back to think of the finishing schools that Vishwa spoke about earlier. Why do we need all these young and fancy edtech startups coming on to bridge that gap, wherein the fundamental deliverable of our education system should be employable people who can be straight away plugged into any kind of role. So with that, dear audience, we have come to the end of our allocated 60 minutes for today's conversation. The panelists are extremely open to diving deeper into conversations and any specifics, so please do reach out to them over LinkedIn. Referencing today's open discussion and writing a personalized note, please do not be lazy to just hit that click and connect button. That will not work. Secondly, there is another intervention coming up next week on the 30th, which is a Wednesday, and it is all about intrapreneurship to entrepreneurship and innovation. we have Cisco, we have Nvidia, we have Dell, and we have Google top bosses coming out and speaking about how their employees are turning from entrepreneurs to entrepreneurs. So be available and ready for that. With that, uh, thank you to all the audience that are here today, because if you were not here, we would not be talking to anyone here at all. Thank you to our dear friends and experts right here, Adi, Vishwa, and Akshat. Thank you to Vivek and Amit for co-hosting this with me today. This is your host Preeti Chaudhary signing off from this edition of LinkedIn Local India Live. Technology hiring, opportunities and obstacles. Until the next time, stay indoors, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night.